All right, guys, it is your meat episode of the week. I'm so glad you're here. You know how we're going to get started, though, in Scripture. So to this week's Scripture is in 1 Corinthians. Okay, so 1 Corinthians chapter 9, 2 verses we're looking at, 22 and 23. To the weak I became weak, that I might gain the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that I may be all things to save some. I do all things for the sake of the gospel, so that I may become a fellow partaker of it. Powerful scripture right there, guys. Are you doing all things for the sake of the gospel? That convicts me. It should convict you. It should convict all of us to take action. So, guys, today I got a very exciting episode. We're going to be talking about masculinity and therapy. And we're just going to hit them. We're going to hit it head on. We're going to talk about a lot of things directly. And I brought in a special therapist. His name is John Sullivan. He used to be in the Navy. And he did some wonderful things. So basically, he followed what the path the Lord laid in front of him, and he settled in on biblical counseling. And he loves serving others and building relationships and helping them to heal. And that was a clear path that he wanted to take. So he ended up getting a bachelor's degree from the Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, and a master's as well in marriage and family therapy. And he was thinking out the gate, you know what, I just want to work with the Christian domain. But then, he actually read an article, and that opened his purview to the opportunity to serve others in the secular realm. And that was the point that he made was missionaries get passports to go into those countries and serve. So getting your clinical license is no different. When I heard that, I thought that was beautiful. I mean, that's a beautiful approach. He's doing what God's called him to do. He's taking the harder path and just leaning in and having conversations. So yes, this is a really great conversation that we talk about a lot of things regarding men in therapy, what that should look like, specifically Christian men, right? What do we need to be looking for? How do we vet therapists? What are some resources that we need to make sure that we're making the right decisions? And then we talk about things regarding our wives and what does it mean to actually go to marriage counseling, and how can that impact you directly? So, and why you should do that before the marriage is on fire. And guys, I'm very open and transparent on the line with Dennis. You guys know I talk about a lot of things about me directly. So I've been seeing a therapist for several years, and it's just been a blessing to me. And just to help understand how to process ideas, thoughts, emotions, because I'm not good at that. And also my wife and I, we go see a marriage therapist, not because our marriage is in trouble, but because we want to make our marriage amazing, phenomenal, incredible, just outstanding. We don't want to just settle for good. And I don't want you guys to settle for good. You need to lean in. So outside perspective, so long as it's the right counselor, can really help you grow as a Christian man. So hopefully you'll enjoy this one with John. He's just a phenomenal man. I know he's going to do incredible things. And by the way, he just had him and his wife had twins. So let's be praying for them. And that's a big change coming to the house. It's hard enough running a newborn in the house, but now you got two. I'm sure there's a lot of stress there. So let's just be praying for John and his growing family. So I'm not going to hold it back any further, guys. Enjoy this conversation with John Sullivan. Well, John Sullivan, welcome to the line within us. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. This is just a cool opportunity, and really hope it's helpful for the guys listening.
I think it's going to be too. I mean, for me personally, this is one that I've been looking forward to, just because I know how therapy and counseling has served me and my family through, trials and just helping us grow as people, particularly me and my wife, as we try to grow together. And, sometimes yeah, man. I mean, and when you think about like masculinity and therapy, they usually don't go together. That's like oil and water, right? So let's just get down to it. Why are so many guys against this?
Why are they against the idea of therapy?
Yeah, I mean, for most guys, they think that is. A lot of guys I hear, they think therapy is like you're weak if you go to therapy.
Right.
So
yeah. So there's a lot of influence behind that. A lot of it's cultural. What does it mean to be a man in America? A lot of it's generational. We saw our fathers kind of strong arm and, just try to push through whatever they were dealing with. And, that whatever model we receive, that's what we walk with until we come to something like, you know, God reveals something to you, or you pursue therapy. There's these different ways where God will use people to kind of like open up your mind and be like, oh, maybe the way that I've been taught to do things could use a little work, or maybe it wasn't the best way to do things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No doubt, man. I mean, it sounds so that cultural generational, like, look, I've always think through, hey, we're just going to bootstrap it. I got to figure this out on my own. I don't need anybody helping me out. Like, as a guy, I need to be the one to figure it out. It's about me, my, right?
Right. Kind of like this self determination. Like
Right.
I can figure this out.
Right. Yeah, I tell guys a lot, man. I don't know, John, if you agree here or not, but the three most dangerous words that guys can say is "I got this,"
Oh,
and
100%.
So it's like Jesus, he wants us to fully surrender to him, and we don't got this. I mean, at the last
Right.
when you think you do, that's probably what you need to like slow down and back up, because that's where I struggle the most.
Yeah, I would say that message is so anti the gospel, because the gospel is like, you don't got this, and that's why I'm here.
Right. Well, man, let's talk about therapy and what that actually looks like now, because I'm sure it's shifted a lot over the years. It's definitely connecting with guys at a different level now. Our audience is almost 100% guys. I do know we have some ladies that listen on a regular basis. I think they listen to urge their men to listen to it. So let's talk about that. How has that shifted for therapy and counseling over the years?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. You've seen a lot. I think COVID helped a lot with it, honestly. There was what COVID did was reveal what was always there. All this pressure cooker of things that we weren't dealing with as a society. We've seen record numbers of people pursuing therapy. We've also seen record numbers of really sad things like suicide, domestic violence, drug and alcohol abuse. So COVID revealed what was already kind of stewing under the surface. And at the end of the day, those are all those things that like people are trying to go to deal with life in some form or fashion, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we call those like maladaptive coping mechanisms because they're not actually helpful long term.
Mm-hmm.
But and so, like you said before, therapy was like basically if you were going in therapy even like 15 years ago, people would be like, well, you must have something seriously wrong with you mentally.
Right.
You can't handle it on your own. But we've seen like a big push. It's kind of a pendulum swing, like we're trying to bring it back to the middle. Um, where in the past we really thought it was for, to be honest, for like women. Like we thought women needed therapy because they're so emotional, but really we're all emotional. We're not handling it. We handle it in different ways. But now we're trying to have this gentle slide where it's like actually therapy is good for everyone, because it turns out you're not supposed to just be trying to figure this out on your own. You need
Mm-hmm.
help. And really, we would hope in an ideal world, like the body of Christ would really be a big part of that. And that's what we always hope for. And I push that in my sessions with believers is like, you only see me once a week. Like I really want you to be tight in community, because that's where a lot of growth and healing is going to happen. But because of the culture that we do have, where like we've talked about, like being like hyper individualistic, like we're less likely to seek out community, and we've put a high value on the professional, right? So I have a degree and a license, so therefore I have the answers.
Right.
So people will seek out professionals more than they would seek out help from their community.
Yeah. And that's been a big gap, man, that I've seen in so many people, particularly with, like you said, COVID amplified it. And even now at our church, we got people who still have chosen not to come back. They want to sit at home and have the Facebook experience for COVID, like the Facebook Live, right? And for me, I was like, bro, you're totally missing it. It's not about, just hearing the preacher. It's about connecting with other people. And it's just,
Exactly.
it's such a big.
It's a holistic experience.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where, I mean, that's what the church is. The church is not a building, it's the people. I mean, the building can burn to the ground, and the church is the church. I mean, and that's what we're called to be. And it's just for guys, man, I think it's hard for us just in general. I'd say just even since starting the line within us, I've been able to talk with so many guys and more. It's been us. We're 100% virtual the way we operate, but it's interesting that the conversations I'm finding that more and more guys are willing to be vulnerable and open and transparent when they're in a meeting like this where they don't know each other. There's not that tie, so it's very interesting dynamic where they would never share some of the things they're sharing with us at their local church because the fear of judgment or condemnation or whatever it is, but within our community, the way we're building it at the Lion, they are comfortable to share. So maybe that I don't know what that's telling me, but maybe it's something I would at least want to share that with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think we're seeing a cultural shift, especially with millennials and like Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very open to therapy. It's amazing. Like there's just I don't really know. I'm sure there's if we trace it back long enough, we'd find an answer to that. But they're very honest in like I need help. I don't have anyone, and you have the training to help me. So like they seek it out. I see a lot of the men I do see are usually in those younger generations.
Right. When you're working with guys, I am curious, what do you see as like the biggest headwind that so far is actually pushing through with guys? Is it getting them to be open, to be vulnerable, or is it just getting them to come or to recognize that, you're there to help them? Like what is the big headwind you're seeing when working with men?
The big thing is having emotions. Like that's it's. I know that sounds odd, but men struggle to to acknowledge that they have emotions and that it's okay to have them. Again, a very cultural thing here. You've got to be you kind of a stoic and you just roll with the punches. And if you do have emotions, it's anger. Like you can be angry because that's what we expect from men, but don't try to employ any of the other emotions. So really a lot of what I walk through with men is like teaching them like to sit with their feelings and their emotions, like and how to when they're having intense emotions, like how to just roll with it and experience it. Because Chris, what brings people in, especially men, to therapy is it's not that they have too many emotions, it's that they've spent so much time avoiding them that they now have all these, like I said before, these maladaptive ways of trying to get around their emotions.
Right.
And that's why you have intense anxiety, depression, anger issues, abuse of substances, all these different things. When really we just need to, the generation of men right now, me and you, with our kids, like we need to teach them like it's okay to have these things, and there's a good way to experience your emotions.
Right.
What we don't want to do is avoid.
Yeah. And I think that's, when we try to suppress it or try to manage it on our own, that's when we end up, trying to jam our calendars so full of stuff, that it just keeps us busy. The busy mind, it keeps you out of the things you actually should be trying to process and deal with directly. Or like you said, you turn to other vices. I mean, pills, alcohol, other women, there's all sorts of other vices out there that men can turn to versus leaning in and actually understanding why am I feeling this way.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, man, I talk a lot about with guys and around. There's kind of three things, and I want to get your take. You got people, you got pills, you got prayer, and I believe in all of them. I think there's a place for all of them that can help people grow, and particularly on their mental health. And what's your take around when obviously from the people standpoint, this is what you do, but from there's lots of medications out there, and then there's also the power of prayer. So there's some guys that may be thinking, look, all I need to do is just pray. I don't need to talk. I don't need anything else. What do you say to that guy?
I would be gentle with them and be like, look, God's sovereign over everything. Pills exist because he gave us a way to just discover them, and that the fact that they interact with our bodies is another act of sovereignty. So that's God's common grace, right? Like he's given us doctors and therapists and all these different things to help our bodies and our minds and our souls. So I'm for all the above. You need to see people. You definitely need to pray because that's your source right there. That's the foundation. But if you need to be on meds, that's fine too. That's another thing that we need to destigmatize is like just because you're on medications doesn't mean something's seriously wrong with you, and it also doesn't mean you have to be on them for life. A lot of people don't realize that. Sometimes
Mm,
if you're going through a hard time in life, there's anxiety and depression meds and all kinds that you take for a time and then you can come off them. But so you got to be mindful that you don't have to be on them all the time.
hmm Absolutely. That's a very good point. I mean, it can be in seasons, right? I mean,
Right.
we have all these different seasons of life, these different trials, but understanding that God and his sovereignty, he made the people who made the pills, right? I mean, so
That's
there's
right.
there's things out there that we just have to follow that line of thinking as Christians. I think sometimes we can be so far, a hard stance against some things without really backing up and understand. Hey, hold on, what's really going on here?
And I think I almost see like that's almost like the Christian form of just roughing it. Like if I just pray enough, like this will work out. And if,
Right.
and if I'm not praying enough or my prayers aren't being answered, I'm weak somewhere.
Right.
I'm
Right.
deficient. When that's not God's heart for you at all. Like I think if we get in any area where we're black and white on anything, then that's when we need to kind of take a step back and be like, it's possible I'm not understanding this fully. If like you know what I'm saying? Like
hmm Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's not weakness to lean into these things. It's actually to me it's a sign of strength. Like you can acknowledge that you don't got it.
Yeah. I love it. Hey, we want to take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. What if you could connect with other Christian men, grow in your faith, have resources to help you be the leader God intends you to be, have live events where you can ask questions and get in the moment answers, and be connected to guys 24/7 when you need them the most? Does it sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. That is what we've built within the Lion Within Us community. I'm telling you guys, this is an unbelievable opportunity. Jump in, check us out. We have weekly events that are happening all the time. We have lion lunches. We have our Bible study. We have boot camps that are happening. We have Ask Me Anything events every month where you get a chance to ask questions directly from guests from the show. Guys, it's access that you cannot get anywhere else. This community is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's growing closer together as it grows as well. It's amazing to see how these guys lean in, support, serve, love, encourage, challenge each other on a daily basis. So, guys, if you want a chance just to check it out, hop over to thelionwithin.us. Get a 30-day free trial. Just see what it's like. And you may find what you've been looking for, that encouragement, that support, that brotherhood is right here at the click of your finger. I'll see you inside the den. Well, John, let's get down to it, man. So for guys who've never been to a counseling session or been to a therapy session, whatever you want to call it, what can they experience? Are they expected to walk in and lay down on a couch and start looking at pictures of bats and things like that? Like, I mean, let's just get real with what it actually looks like. What do you do? What could they expect going into it?
Yeah. Oh man, it's a good question because it really is like as many flavors of ice cream there are, or like there's that many types of like therapy. So it really depends on who you're going in to see. So it's important to
Okay.
like if they have a a internet page and they have like a profile or a video, to watch those, and hopefully those are done well enough that you get a taste of who they are, because it really is it's whatever modality they're trained in, and then it's also the personality of the therapist. I could be an amazing therapist, I have all the skills, but if we don't get along on a personal level, we're not going to go anywhere. So that's really important. So for me, part of my process is I want to make them super comfortable and just relaxed. I've actually had a lot of guys. I do a lot of couples too, and a lot of men are hesitant to come in because they think they're just going to get bashed. Like the
Yeah.
therapist is going to align with the wife, and then they're just going to together. They're just going to do a crush session, and that's so the opposite of what I do. That I've had several guys be like, I was pretty nervous coming in, but you've made this a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, it's just getting to know what brings them in. Like my goal is to be non-judgmental and just hear wherever they're at and with what they're struggling with. You know, like everyone's doing the
Right.
best they can in the way they know how. So it's not a matter of like you're not doing good enough. It's like you're doing what you can. How can I come alongside you and give you things maybe you hadn't thought of?
Mm-hmm.
See different
Absolutely.
perspectives.
Yeah. So just really creating that that safe environment for them to share and to be open and transparent. So a typical session is it's 30 minutes, an hour and a half. What could they expect from a timeline?
Yeah. So the first session is what we call like an intake session, and it's really just information gathering. We're not doing any like process yet. But I'm learning about them, they're learning about me, and seeing if we're a good fit. And then every session after that is like progress or process sessions where we're actually doing the work. We're working on the objectives that they set, and that's an important piece. Is that together we create goals to accomplish in therapy, so that you're not just showing up and we're just talking about life, and then see you next week. We actually want to be working towards something, towards the issues that you're coming in with.
Okay, so that means if we have goals, there's a level of accountability then, right?
Right, right.
Okay. Now you're starting to maybe resonate with some guys or maybe scare some guys, but that's good. That's what we're here to do. How about when you mentioned earlier the personal connection? I will attest to this. The personal connection is huge. So guys, if you're out there and you feel like, I'm gonna go to one therapist and it didn't work out, you're being short sighted. Because maybe that you and that therapist did not connect on a personal level, and at
Exactly.
that point, I would encourage you to keep going back and look for more. So I want to take it one level further, John, and get your insight on this. The Christian influence versus the secular. There's lots of secular therapists out there versus some that take the Christian approach. What's the big difference? And then what should we be looking for out of that Christian? Because just because they say they're a Christian therapist,
Right.
we probably should test that, right? And make
Right.
sure. So love to get your insight on this.
Yeah. And it really, I work in there are a lot of Christians in my practice, but we would say we're a secular practice because we accept everyone. We're not just Christian oriented. But I do see a lot
Right.
of believers too, and it's really dependent on the client, the guy coming in, to express that he wants faith based counseling to be part of his treatment.
Okay.
So I don't always remember, but I try to make sure I ask when we first meet, like, you in the intake paperwork, you mentioned faith is important to you. Do you want that to be part of the process? And if they say yes, like, let's go. Like, we're going to be talking about God. We're going to be praying every session. I don't always remember to pray at the end, but I try. But yeah, there's going to be actual faith integration. Whereas like people they have no faith, we never touch that. It's not even
Right.
discussed. Then we're just working on like we're using like clinical interventions, and just really focusing on those like the clinical side of the house. Whereas if we're doing faith based, you're getting both,
Mm-hmm.
and that's important too. You brought up the point of a lot of people are Christian counselors, so there's a spectrum here. You have people who are Christian counselors, they're nouthetic, right? They're like Bible has all the answers. Like we're not going to use any of the clinical stuff because that's secular and that doesn't not in the realm of God, basically. Um, and then there's like me, where I'm an integrationist, where I use both because, like I said, God's common grace. He gave us these skills to help our minds and our bodies and our souls. So we might as well use them. They're redeemable, right? Because God is more powerful than anything science has created. So like we can redeem these things rather than just say they're inherently secular or sinful.
Right.
But you got to be careful because you can go to a Christian counselor, and I'm about to say something. So let me say I love Christian counselors. Like I consider myself one. But if we do not have the right training, we can do serious damage. So yeah, that's where like we have to be careful. And unfortunately, it's hard for a client coming in to know what training each person has unless that's like specifically shared. So like I try to share, like I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, so I have a licensure that the secular state said, yes, you can practice. But a lot of biblical counselors are not held to that code, and they have their own code of ethics. But again, it's such a spectrum, and it's really I use like the metaphor of like the ice cream flavors. Like you really don't know what you're getting until you get in the office, and you have to decide as the client, is this a good fit or not? Don't just keep going because you signed up. Like you really gotta pray, discern, like, is this the right fit?
Yeah. I mean, from that standpoint, I didn't realize there were different, I guess, credentials around us. So what she'll be as a man going in, definitely if you want to have a Christian oversight or somewhat of a view here to help you work through your issues. But if they're not trained, what do we need to be looking for then? I mean, I don't know the credentials I need to be looking for when it comes to checking out a therapist.
Yeah, I think at the most basic level, hopefully on their website or when you talk to them, they disclose where they got their training. So really, what I would like to see from a counselor would be he at least has a master's in some form of counseling, whether it be just Christian or like mine is Christian and secular. Masters would be primary because that means they put in the time, they gained the knowledge, they did the work because that involves actual clinical training, right? Like you have to be an intern somewhere.
I'm with you.
And even there's plenty of people who have like pastoral counseling degrees. I think that's fine. Again, master's level is kind of the baseline. If you're seeing someone who has a bachelor's, they probably need a little more experience.
Right. It shows. I mean, they took that master's level. Obviously, they showed that they're invested in that career path.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. What about? And I don't know the best way to ask this. I'm just going to come out and ask it. Picking a man versus a woman therapist. We're talking to Christian men here. Right. Does that need to be a factor, or is that not something to be considered at all?
I think we consider it, but we base it on level of comfort. So if you're cool with seeing a woman, and you looked at her credentials and you feel like she can address the issues that you're bringing in to the session, I'm all for it. But there is, I see a lot of men come to me because I am a man. Like there are gender differences, right? That's just a objective fact. But a lot of guys just want to see a guy because we understand each other on that level.
Yeah.
Regardless of training.
That's what I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying regardless of my training, they know that they're coming in with an understanding that we're going to understand each other a little better.
Right. Exactly. I mean, for me, with the gentleman that I talk to and see, that's it. I mean, I feel like as a guy, we just connect, and I can just, I can be very blunt, very honest. And, I don't know if I would have that level of connection if he wasn't a guy, just to be honest. So, I mean, I think to your point, though, if it does resonate, that's fine. But I think it's definitely that personal connection. Keep going back. That's the biggest piece. You got to you got to kind of like them. You got to be able to like them as somewhat of a friendship because you're building a relationship there.
And really, we call that like the therapeutic alliance. If that is not strong, men will not be vulnerable. It is already so hard for men to be vulnerable. So if they can't mesh at that most basic level, it's going to be hard to get somewhere.
Right.
But I will say there is a caveat. Like if you're needing therapy and a woman's available, do it. Like that's better than suffering alone and not getting the help you need.
Yeah. Good point. And I'm glad you brought that one up, because that's something that guys probably need to think about, because you may find it difficult when you go out and you're searching, because a lot of the therapists, particularly the effective ones, the ones that are really connected with their clients, they don't have availability,
Right.
So, maybe speak to that. How do you go about vetting them and checking it out when it can be so hard just to get an appointment with any of them?
Yeah. So Psychology Today is where that's like the most basic. What would you call it? It's like where you can basically check out all the therapists in the local area. Anyone who's
like a directory type?
Yeah, it's a directory. Yeah, that's a good.
Okay.
So go there, and that's something we pay for, all of us individual therapists. So we put a lot of TLC into it because we're marketing ourselves. It's going to have all of our credentials. It's going to have our license. It's going to have the different areas that we practice in, like the things we're strong in. Like so mine says couples, families, men, stuff like that. So you'll be able to really get a great picture of what you're walking into, and it also shows if they're taking clients or not.
Okay.
That's Psychology Today.
Psychology Today. All right, we'll put that link in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
For you guys out there, because it's important. Because it can be frustrating, I know, for you guys if you make 2 or 3 phone calls and nobody's available, or schedules don't align. It can be hard, So you don't want to give up. But that's a good resource there, John. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. Guys, I hear all the time how we are isolated, we're alone, we don't feel like we have anybody we can talk to. And I'm here to tell you, we took action. The Lion Within Us, we started a community. And that thing is awesome. We have events happening all the time. And more importantly, we have guys connecting with each other every day. And I'm talking about we're building meaningful relationships, serving each other, accountability, growth. And I know that's what you're looking for. And it's done, guys, all within the community itself. Every week we have Lion Lunches, we have Bible studies, we have Ask Me Anything events. We have things, resources that we have built to serve you, to help you be the leader God intends you to be. We're offering right now a 30-day free trial. Jump in, check it out for a month. Come to some events, see what it's like, see if it serves you well. You have nothing to lose at this point. Check it out. I guarantee you guys, once you get in, you're going to find the resources that you need to help you keep growing. Just that encouragement. Sometimes you just need that fellow brother coming alongside that's just going to be there and say, I got you, bro. And that's what we got. We have that and so much more. So go to the lionwithin.us, click on get a 30-day free trial, and start today. And guys, I'll see you inside the den. So John, I want to transition a little bit. So we've been talking about men directly in therapy, and I think it's an important conversation to have. But I want to, while we're here, we have a lot of guys, part of the Lion Within Us, we talk about self, we talk about being a better husband too. But you mentioned it earlier about going to therapy with your wife. And I'd like to go ahead and just talk about that from a preventative standpoint, because so many guys, if they hear that, me and my wife are going to counseling, like, the building's on fire and it's about to burn to the ground. And that's not the case, right? My wife and I, it's usually a monthly check-in, because we want to have a phenomenal, outstanding, incredible marriage, not just a good one, Right. So it helps us connect. So maybe talk around how that therapy can help build up, what isn't on fire for those guys that may be listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like all things in life, we have to be intentional, right? Like we're intentional with our jobs. We're intentional with our self-care, feeding ourselves, bathing ourselves, all those things. And it really should be the same way with your wife. Like if that relationship is going to thrive, you're not just going to do the baseline and keep going. You're going to invest in it to build it up and make it even stronger, because life is coming. It's always coming. So if you're not investing in that relationship, what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of withdrawals and no deposits. I use the language of like the love bank account or the love tank. You've got to put deposits in that bank account because those withdrawals are coming, whether it be life events or you guys getting in fights, you're not getting along, whatever. Those moments are going to happen because we're two sinners together. But if you're investing all along the way and being intentional, rather than being huge mountains, those are just going to be bumps in the road.
Mm-hmm. Man, that is so good right there. And I mean, and plus, I love the connection. That's a connection that so many guys get because it ties right to wealth. Withdrawals and deposits, man. I mean, you're all over it. And that's what I'm trying to really encourage guys, man. It doesn't mean that your marriage is set up for failure or you're doomed if you go to counseling. One thing we need to remember, guys, and you hear me talk about it all the time, Satan wants our marriages to fail. He does. He's going to do everything he can to drive a wedge between you and your wife. And for me, the big thing, and I'd like to get your take on this, John, is just having that third party. If you're in the trenches and you're with your wife and you're doing life, you're there together, and you can't really see the purview of everything that's around you because you're right there with her. For me, the big value has been that outside perspective and saying, "Hey, have you guys considered this?" Or just that different view that I can't have and she can't have, but that they're able to offer.
Right. And, you kind of like, we're all looking at life through a certain lens, right? And I'd like to think, it's pretty accurate. Sometimes, often a lot of times it's not. But I kind of like think about like if you put your hand in front of your face, what can you see? Can't see a whole lot. You can see through the cracks. You can see the peripheral. Well, what I offer you is the view from the other side. I'm on the outside, so I can see all the things you can't see because you're in the trenches with it. And it's really, you get myopic, you get so focused on these one-off issues where I can take that 30,000 foot view with you and be like, hey, I can see all these points where you've got to this point, like this thing might be the big issue right now, but let's expand it out and see how we can change things in the system, if you will, so that we can alleviate this pressure point over here.
Yeah, that's really good, man. I'll tell you one thing we did I thought was really cool, and I forget what he called it, but it was something like a river, the river of life or something. But we got on this big board, and guys, you can do this at home with your wife. It was a lot of fun. You may need a therapist to help you understand some of the parts of it, but she started writing her events, like her life as a river, the different things, from when she was born, the memories that she had growing up. And then I did the same, the highs, the lows, and then the rivers met. And then we drew that river out through the trials we've gone through, the good parts, the bad parts that we've gone through as a couple. But I can just tell you what, just listening to the part of the river where she was by herself, even though we dated and I knew her, there were things that were revealed to me through that I didn't know before. And it just led to really good conversations. But I will tell you this, I never would have thought as just being a husband to draw two rivers together, man. I mean, that's stuff that therapists like yourself, I'm sure you have tools like that pull out these open up the level of conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes that's just what it is like, I'm just giving you communication skills that you didn't have before. Because remember, you can't give what you don't have. If your folks didn't teach you proper communication, emotional regulation, that's what you didn't get. And we have to source it from somewhere else.
Well, what are some ways that when you're working with guys directly, kind of shifting back to one-on-one with guys, are there any methods that you find are most effective, that you get the best results, that guys enjoy the most? Or I just love to get your take and your insight here.
So I'm traditionally like what we call cognitive behavioral therapist. That's my training. What I got from Southeastern. It's a lot of what they do, and what aligns very much biblically, because it's all so much of what Paul is talking about is like, renewing your mind, take captive your thoughts, like, leave no provision for the flesh. All these different things are like very like mental pursuits,
Mm-hmm.
and then I partner that, the CBT is what it's called for short, with biblical principles. And guys really like that because mainly it's simple. Like, I'm not using a bunch of language, and I try not to anyway. Like, you ever go to the doctor's office and they're throwing all these terms at you, and you're like, can you just tell me what's going on?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
see, I don't like that. I don't want to do that to you. Like, so I'm going to use very plain language, and we're talking. I'm using all the CBT stuff, but I'm just giving it to you in a way that is really palatable. You can just take it and run with it.
Yeah. So that's cool. So that's the big one that you lean on, that you find good results out of guys with.
Yeah, and then for marriages, I use Gottman method, which is John Gottman is he's like the marriage guru of our age. He's got like 50 plus years of research now, evidence-based research, and again, can be highly biblical. Although he's not a believer, I've easily transferred that stuff into biblical principles.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah, anything by Gottman, if you pick that up and you read that with your wife, you will bless your marriage. The one that I always recommend to my couples and my husbands is the 7 principles for making marriage work.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll link that up in the show notes for sure. So that 7 principles, that's a really good resource, you think, to help bring our marriages stronger.
Oh yeah, I use it all the time. I've used it in my own marriage. It's been a huge benefit.
I mean, this is on the spot, but what's one of the principles? I mean, let's share something. Let's give the guys a taste.
Yeah. That's a good one. There's so many. Kind of how you approach talking about hard things, even if you just want to hey, I want to make a purchase or something. Like, there's a difference. So, for example, here we go. For like, if you're expressing a need, like if your wife comes to you and goes, "You never take out the trash. You're such a slob." How do you feel? You feel defensive.
Yeah, I'm attacked.
You're on edge.
That's right.
You're getting ready to go into the fight.
Yep.
But so we call that a harsh startup. That's a harsh startup to the conversation. But if your wife were to come to you or maybe we should flip it, like for the guys, like if you were to go to your wife and you want anything, you could go. A good one is like holding hands or affection or something like that. You remember last week when you were really affectionate? I really love that, and I'd love to see more of that. So instead of, and he could have been like, you're frigid, you're so cold, like you don't touch me enough,
right?
Because there's a need in both sides of the conversation right there. You're expressing a need, but how you express it makes all the difference. The one with the harshness, you're never going to get what you want. But if you come at her soft and you say, like, you start with I language, I'm sure you've heard of that before.
Right.
I feel this way and I need this from you. Do you see what was not present in that statement? There's no you. There's no finger pointing.
Right.
And that's a huge part of Gottman, is the harsh versus the soft startup or the gentle startup. And I tell you what, it seems like such a simple skill, but once you start using it, the conversations change. And it just gets so much better. That's
a great point, guys. That right there is worth listening to. So if you made it this far into the podcast, that just will probably save a lot of arguments and may even help you guys grow in your marriages together. So, I mean, I love the connection there, because I went straight to intimacy. So many guys, why aren't you ever intimate? Why aren't you ever in the mood? I can hear them saying it right now to their wives, and that's a great versus approaching it. Hey, last week or whenever the last time, I love the way we connected. Would hope to, just open that conversation up in a much softer tone.
Right. Yeah. Asking questions rather than making a demand.
Right. That's good stuff, man. That is awesome. Well, how long have you been doing working in counseling and therapy?
So I graduated May 2021. So I've been doing it since then,
Okay.
more or less. So I'm still a greenhorn. I'm learning a ton every day. But I do feel like God has definitely affirmed the calling. Like it has been hard. I always want to be honest, like we don't want to sugarcoat anything. It's been
Right.
hard, but it's been a huge source of growth in me personally, spiritually, in my marriage. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been awesome.
That's great, man. Well, at the Line Within Us, John, we always have what we call it's a lightning round. We call it feeding time. It's a little bit of just fun stuff, like just to let our guys get to know you as a little bit deeper level. But if you're willing to play, man, we'll jump in that before we wrap up for today.
Sure.
Awesome. So just getting us started. What's your favorite thing about God?
Oh man, how deep his love is, how deep and rich his love, man. It's just, and well, it's never ending. And it shows up in so many different ways.
Yeah. Isn't that cool, man? It's really awesome. So now to flip that on its head, what's your least favorite thing about Satan?
His lies always have a bit of truth, and that's why they're believable.
Mm.
And that's why men get stuck.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, man.
Halts us right in our tracks.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's so important to know the word, guys. I mean, when he approached Jesus, what did Jesus always do? It is written. You gotta know the truth. So what is next question? What's something that you're currently struggling with right now?
Oh man. Probably pride. And that might be an always thing as a man. I don't know. But trying to be humble in the position that I'm in, because I have so many people coming to me looking for help. It's easy to get inflated.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where on the flip side, it's like, oh, you've got to have this all figured out. And if you don't, then something's wrong.
Right. That's right. Man, I think the pride answer, if the guys listening were truthful, they would all resonate with that one, because the pride of life. I mean, lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, the pride of life. That's the three big ones. But the pride is what gets so many guys, man. And gotta be aware of that one. So, what's something that you spent too much time doing last year?
Probably watching YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can suck you in, man. That algorithm is really good, brother. So it's there for a reason.
Oh yeah. Shows me what I want to see.
Nice. Let's do two more. What's a new habit that you want to try to create, or maybe one that you recently created?
Yeah, man, we're in the season of Advent. We're anticipating Christ's birth and his return in the future. So just pausing to be still, just like little micro pauses throughout the day. Like
Yeah,
I love long times of silence and solitude, but it's really important to get those tiny pauses and just turn back to true north as much as you can.
I love it. That's a great advice there. Last question for you, John. What's one thing that you hope that the guys listening today remember from our conversation?
Yeah. Don't do it alone. Like, it's okay to struggle. We're all struggling, but don't do it alone. And if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your community. Because what we change in ourselves, the ripple effect, right? The pebble in the water. We change for the people around us. It affects them, they affect others. Like, it just keeps going, man.
It's so true. It's so true. So, John, what other items would you like to share? Where should guys go if they want, if they want to connect with you or learn more about counseling? I mean, any resources you'd like to share with the guys before we wrap up today?
Yeah. So obviously, like, I'd love to, if people want to seek therapy, these guys want to seek therapy, like they can reach out to me. I work at it's called Greenleaf Psychological and Support Services, and you can check us out at turntogreenleaf.com. I'm one of several guys there. There's a lot of ladies too, but we're a private practice, but most of us are Christian, so it wouldn't be hard to find some. And a lot of us have availability. That's important. A lot of us are, because a lot of guys are looking and they can't find, but we have several people, including myself, who have availability. So that's a good one. Psychology Today is going to have all the practices in the area, and that's just a good touching point to send you in the right direction. Oh man, yeah, I think those are some good ones. There's so many good books too. Like I love reading, but audiobooks too. On if you don't want to go to counseling, there's like degrees to this. Like, so if you don't want to go to therapy, read a book, listen to an audiobook. There are ways. Listen to this podcast. Like there are ways you can improve your mental health. If you can't afford it, I get it. I wish that's kind of ever changing, but just don't quit. Like there are things and resources that are free or inexpensive.
Absolutely. That's right. We just got to lean in, got to get it done, guys. If we make it a priority, it will get done. You just got to actually, make that priority and make that investment. And you mentioned earlier about the withdrawals and the deposits. I mean, if anything, make that investment in your marriage for sure. You won't regret it. So, John, it's been an honor, man. Thank you so much. This was a good conversation. We definitely debunked a lot of myths around therapy and counseling, particularly for Christian men. So, man, I thank you so much for the wisdom you shared today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been a joy. I'm so hopeful for how this helps people, so it'll be good to see. We won't know, but in heaven, you and I will see.
We'll see there, brother. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, man, you have a wonderful day, sir. Thank you so much.
You too.
Let me ask you a real personal question. Who are your 5 closest friends? Are they pulling you closer to God or further away? And I know some of me guys said, man, I ain't got 5 friends. Okay, I get it, man. It's hard. It's hard to make those true connections. So what we did at The Line Within Us is we started a community. That community is where brotherhood happens. It's where guys come together. So guys, if you're struggling right now, if you feel a little bit isolated or alone, you need to hop in the community. You're going to find brothers there that are going to come alongside you that want to help you wherever you're at. Wherever you're at, guys. Don't think you have to be some theologian to join. No, we're all just regular men who want to deepen our relationship with Jesus Christ, to ultimately be the leader God intends us to be. That's what it's about. So hop over to the community. Guys, we have a lot of live events as well. So you can hop in. You can kind of just sit there and watch. You don't have to really jump in if that's not who you are right now. Hop in on a Lion Lunch. Maybe go to one of our Bible studies that we have going on. Maybe check out some of our courses that we have available. Or Ask Me Anything events where we have previous guests come in and share their expertise. All this is available within the community. That is part of the membership. So if it sounds like that's something you want to start, guys, 30-day free trial. Just jump in, see if it serves you. And if it does, guys, we would love to have you in our community because we're growing, we're serving, we're helping others be the leader that God intends them to be. And I know we can help you be the leader God wants you to be as well. So again, hop over to thelionwithin.us, click on join for that 30-day free trial so you can get started today. I look forward to seeing you inside the den. All right, guys, I told you that was going to be a good one. I mean, it really was a good conversation. Hopefully you picked up a lot. Hopefully you learned a lot and you got some areas that you can apply to make an impact in your life right now. Again, therapy and counseling, those things are there for a reason. I'm telling you guys, people, pills, prayer, those things work. And you know what? There's nothing shameful that it comes with reaching out for others for help. Now, that's what they're there for. God put these people, he is sovereign above all things. And he gave people like John gifts and talents to use to serve others. And they're doing that. They're doing that. So hopefully this helps you. The question I want you to think about this week, are men in therapy weak? Do you think that? Or did this conversation today maybe start turning your idea around counseling and therapy in a different light? Hopefully, at least it gave you an inside view of what it actually looks like versus what we see on TV or counseling or through media. Right? There's a lot of power in just having actual truth to lean on. So guys, again, people, pills, prayers, all that stuff works. I'm going to point you guys back to the community. What John said at the end, don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. Whatever you're facing, don't do it alone. That's why we built the Lion Within Us community. So guys, if you're struggling, if you got a trial going on right now, or maybe you're in a season of life and you're not struggling, things are okay. Let me just go ahead and warn you. It's coming. It doesn't say if, it says when in the Bible, when we face these trials. So guys, you're either in it, coming out of it, or getting ready to go into it. And you need guys around you. And if you don't have them, we're here to help you. That's what the community is all about. So go to thelionwithin.us. That's thelionwithin.us. Join our community. It's 30 days free. Check it out. See what we're talking about. See how we can serve you. See how we can connect with you. See how you connect with other guys. See what you can bring to the table and how we can help give you the resources and tools you need to overcome it. Whether you want to be a better husband, a better dad, work on your career and your finances. Maybe you just want to work on, like John talked about today, your mental health. Or maybe you just need to lose a few extra pounds. We got that. We're here to help you do that too. So guys, we have all these resources available. We have direct access, live events, ask me anything from our previous guests, but you're not going to get any of it just by listening to the podcast. You got to jump into the community. Now we're blessed. We're honored. We thank you for listening, but take action. Go to thelionwithin.us, join the community. You'll find us there. And guys, I'm going to tell you what, that is where it's happening. That's where you're going to grow. That's how you're going to, that's a really great resource to help you be the leader God intends you to be. So guys, give us a rating, write a review. That helps big time. Share this episode with others. Maybe share this one with your wife and let your wife listen to it. Maybe she needs to would open a conversation for you and her to think about how we could start approaching therapy and why we should consider it as a couple. You never know, guys. Just take a little bit of action to make a big impact. So I pray you come back on Friday. I got some cool tips for your Fun Friday. Got a great resource as well for you on our Fun Friday from the Book of the Week that I think you'll really get a lot out of this one, guys, seriously. So come back on our Fun Friday. And we're going to have some dad jokes to get you going into the weekend. So get after it, fellas. Enjoy your day and make sure you take care of your mental health. It's so important, guys. So get after it. Stay strong. Unleash the lion within.